The two non-negotiables that I believe, have lost in our society in general were a sense of community and purpose and mobility into later in life, which you just pointed out. In fact, you said they're walking up hills. In Sardinia, they had centenarians, and then they had this concentration of hypercentenarians, 117, 119.
Wow.
Like really old people. And they were like, what is it? And they started looking at all these different variables. I mean, are they eating more fish? Are they, are they sleeping better? What is it? And they were, oh my gosh, it's directly related to the grade of the slope that they walk up.
Wow.
So you got 98-year-old men and 101-year-old women walking up these 30-degree slopes, 10 blocks to go to church, and then walking down to the market, and then walking home. There are no elevators. There's no escalators. There's no such thing as assisted care living in a lot of these zones. Assisted care is mom and dad move back in with the kids until they pass. And what this does is it fosters a sense of community. You know, we knew in the mortality space when we were doing mortality modeling that if you wanted to cut a human being's life expectancy in half, and I mean in half, at any age, you put them in isolation. And we think about isolation as being alone, but we are isolated in our communities now. You know, we get most of our stimulus from this 4-inch by 6-inch square. We get our dopamine addiction from there. We've lost a true sense of connection. We're completely disconnected from Mother Nature. And if you look at what we get from Mother Nature, you get magnetism from the earth. Amazing for you, just taking your shoes off, touching the surface of the earth. Yeah. We get oxygen from the air. Most of us breathe so shallowly that we are just slowly suffocating to death. Which, by the way, is the way that all human beings leave this earth. We all leave the earth the same way. We all die of the exact same thing. The definition of death is hypoxia, lack of oxygen to the brain. And we think of it as an event, right? A gunshot wound, a bust, a stroke, a heart attack, what have you. But the truth is it's a predictable curve. Most of us breathe so shallow. You know, after our 30th birthday, I read a statistic. I don't know if there's a clinical study to back it up, but I read a statistic that said that after the age of 30, less than 5% of the population will ever sprint again. Sprint.
So
that means we're not using those auxiliary muscles of respiration, our intercostals. Like we're not breathing. We're not.
So as a woman over 40 years old, the fact that I can get on this treadmill or go outside and still sprint and do hills, I'm already beating the statistic.
Top 1%. That's why I like breath work, because you can mimic sprinting activity by just learning to do 5 to 8 minutes of breath work a day. Don't let these muscles atrophy, right? Most of us spend the majority of our time breathing with what's called the apex of our lungs.
Yeah.
If you look at our lungs, they actually get smaller towards the top. And then you got this big lobes of the lungs down near your diaphragm. So we start breathing shallowly with the top of our lungs, right?
I find myself, I have to catch myself throughout the day at certain points, Gary, because I have to say, breathe deep.
Yes.
Take deep breaths, Brandy.
Yeah.
Because I do find myself at certain points in the day,
you
taking these short
hypoxic.
Yeah.
And then we tell grandma not to go outside, it's too hot, not to go outside, it's too cold, just to lay down, just to relax, to eat at the very first pang of hunger. We are destroying her natural defense mechanisms, right? We were meant to challenge our bodies and have our bodies strengthen. There's a process in the human body called hormesis, and it's hormetic stresses. These are stresses you apply to the body where it strengthens in response, right? So, for example, if you don't load a bone, it won't strengthen. If you don't tear a muscle, it won't grow. If you don't challenge the immune system, it weakens, which is back to the point we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. You know, one of the worst things we did to humanity, and I know this is probably going to cut your audience right in half. People get so upset when I say this, but one of the worst things we did to humanity during the pandemic was residential quarantining, social distancing, and masking.
Yeah.
Full stop. The reason for this is we took human beings out of contact with other human beings. And if you don't challenge the immune system, it begins to weaken. So what happened on the backs of the pandemic? And forget what side of the vaccine equation you're on. What happened on the back of the pandemic? Well, you had all of these things creep in, like monkeypox. Yeah. What the hell's monkey? I mean, where did that come from?
Where did it come from?
Like all these weak viruses, and it started to prey on us because our immune system was weakened, right? I mean, again, God meant us to be in proximity of other human beings. We can defend, our immune system should be able to defend these pathogens very easily. If you look at the research comparing things like mobility and exercise and sleep and diet to serotonin reuptake inhibitors and depressive therapies, it's night and day the difference you can get with mobility, sense of community, and a whole food diet.
Yeah.
If you just did those three things.
I mean, say it again for the audience. Yeah. Mobility, that means moving your body.
Moving your body.
Every single day.
Every single day. And, we think, it comes, to put it super simple, if you want to live a long time, lift heavy weight. Right? Muscle is our metabolic currency.
It is
true. Yeah.
I'm a weightlifter. I've been lifting weights since my 20s. So I was a former fitness competitor. So amazing. I love bodybuilding. I love lifting weights.
Yeah.
So every morning I always say, like, Monday through Friday, I'm doing hard things. I start my day off lifting heavy weights.
Yeah.
Because it sets my day up.
And then you'll notice that if you do that consistently, when you get those little assaults during the day, somebody writes a nasty message about you on social media, somebody comments about your podcast, you don't forget, because we're all going to have those things.
Yeah.
They sort of roll off your back.
Yeah.
Instead of being the thing that actually breaks you. And so that's called hormesis. It's like cold plunging. People, I have a saying that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort.
Aging is the progressive pursuit of comfort?
Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort.
Pursuit of comfort.
You know what most of us do as we get older is we aggressively seek comfort. We do not like to be uncomfortable, and we will do anything to not be uncomfortable. So we regulate our air temperature. We regulate the temperature in our car. We regulate our lighting. We regulate everything.
That is so good because it's so true.
It's so true.
It's so true.
And so if you don't control your reaction to being uncomfortable, it will control you. And by that I mean, by becoming so soft, by regulating everything. I tell people, listen, if you don't want to do a cold plunge, just take a cold shower.
I did a cold shower this morning because you were coming, Gary. I was like, let me get to it.
Oh, good.
Let me just start, Gary. Yeah. I was like, I did cold this morning because I said, Gary is coming on the show, Brandy.
Dude,
Put a step in the right direction.
I had your dad on my podcast.
I know.
And I had to literally stop 3 times because his description of him taking a cold plunge for the first time, I'm telling you, if you guys haven't seen that, it's the best comedy show you'll ever see in your life. And I know the man's known for comedy, but him getting into that cold plunge, I mean, he used to call me all the time, Lord Jesus, is there anything else I can do besides get in this damn water?
Because it's uncomfortable.
Yes, it's uncomfortable.
It's so uncomfortable.
But you know what happens when you expose your body to that stress? That's a hormetic stress. And look, you don't need to go out and invest thousands of dollars in a cold plunge. You can do a couple of things. First of all, you can take a cold shower. You could take Tupperware containers, fill them full of water, put them in your freezer, and make big blocks of ice, and throw them in your bathtub. You'll have a cold plunge for 3 days. All right. So if budget constraints are the issue, you can do it on a budget. And what happens when you expose your body to cold water? And I'm not talking for prolonged periods of time. There's
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. You can do anything for 3 minutes.
You can do anything for 3 minutes.
I know. You can hear me talking to you in the shower this morning. She's like, Gary said I could do it for 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Yeah.
So what happens is you get this peripheral vasoconstriction, right? Drives all the blood into your core, liver, lungs, pancreas, kidneys, your brain. And then what happens is your body activates a very special type of fat in the body called brown fat. Brown fat is our thermostat. Right, when you take a cold shower or you get out of a cold plunge, okay, the air is 75 degrees. Your body has been in 50-degree water. How does it go past that 75-degree air and go all the way to 98.6? How does it continue to maintain that temperature gradient with its environment? That's your brown fat exchanging calories for heat. There's a cost to keeping your temperature that high. The cost is calories. And so it will take a calorie, exchange it for a measure of heat. Then what will happen is your liver will dump a very specialized type of protein into your bloodstream called a cold shock protein. If you want to ever be fascinated, you're bored sometime, just Google cold shock proteins and look at the myriad of things that this does in your body. They're actually studying some of these cold shock proteins, Lin-28A and Lin-28B, for their effects on insulin sensitivity, meaning cold showers, cold bathing can actually improve your sensitivity to insulin, meaning lower insulin resistance. And the other thing it does is it causes a massive dopamine release. And, dopamine being the main driver of mood makes you feel alert, makes you feel awake, clear, focused. I mean, you could be in a bad mood getting into a cold plunge. You cannot be in a bad mood getting out, right? They say, sometimes if you want to fix somebody's depression instantly, just push them in cold water.
Yeah.
And so if I can get a dopamine spike, release cold shock proteins, activate brown fat, get a peripheral vasoconstriction in 3 minutes, I can do all that good for my body, then why wouldn't I just take that small amount of suffering to strengthen my body? And the answer is that most people don't want to be uncomfortable.
Hey, Vault family, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, make sure to check out our full interview on our channel at Vault Empowers Talks. We don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential leaders and change makers. Don't forget to like, to comment, and be sure to subscribe for more inspiring conversations. See you next time.